Good morning. So today's topic is really, how to reach enlightenment with IFS, or how to work on spiritual development, and how IFS, or internal family systems, as a tool can really jumpstart spiritual development of an individual. So a little bit first about me. This is a picture of me when I was a kid. I was dissecting a frog, which really shows my scientific nature. I really woke up in this life with a scientific mind, and unless I can prove something or experience it, I'm not gonna just blindly believe it. So this is like the basis that I come from. I was also born in Belgrade, Serbia, which was really at the cusp of the ex-Yugoslavia, so big heartache there. The country did no longer exist. When I was 19, I moved to France to study political science because I wanted to change the world. I was really quickly disillusioned by institutional politics. I started to become involved in drug policy reform for social justice reasons and address the United Nations on the dangers of prohibition to young people. But that world also left me not really nourished in a way that I needed. And when I graduated about 8 years ago, I decided to learn on my own what I wanted to learn, which was psychology, self development, spirituality, meditation, yoga, and so on. And it's really from this work that I'll be presenting today. This is the content of today's presentation. It's really simple. What is IFS? What is enlightenment? Why is it so hard to talk about as well? How do I get there? How do I get to enlightenment? And where am I right now? So this part is really some of the models that might be useful for you to just really place yourself and understand what's ahead or what's left to do. Internal family systems is a brain-based psychotherapeutic approach. It was developed in 1980s by Dr. Richard Schwartz, a psychiatrist from Chicago. Today, it's one of the fastest growing therapeutic approaches in the world, at least in North America. Why I love it is that it has really spiritual foundations. It's founded on the basis that there are no bad parts, that all of us, everything that is inside of us is not bad, that when we dare to go at the very depths of ourselves, that what we'll find is actually love and trust and light. And so this is really the foundation of the model. So the underlying beliefs of the model. Another belief that I really like is that it's founded on this idea that all of us have innate healing intelligence. For example, when we have a cut on the skin, in order to heal it, we bring the skin together and the skin heals itself, right? So by the same way in IFS, when we bring the self, the consciousness or the awareness, the presence, the attention without an agenda to the parts of us that may feel burdened or hurt or sad, then our inner healing intelligence just heals what needs to be healed. We have this clarity of, oh, of course, I know what to do, or it just happens. So the way IFS works is it's founded on this idea that we're all made up of parts. So for example, if I wake up on a Sunday morning and a part of me wants to make pancakes and a part of me wants to have a really strong workout, right? And another part of me wants to just stay in bed and watch shows. So these are like different parts of us that have different agendas and intentions. And there's two main kinds of parts. So there's exiles and protectors. Exiles are often little, like children, who have had in our childhood a difficult experience and are holding some burdens like sadness or fear. And in our system, because it's so smart and it protects us, our system has exiled this part somewhere inside because it's too painful to touch these difficult emotions. And then there's also protectors that come over this part that really protect us from getting in touch with difficult emotions. And protectors can be two kinds. So there can be proactive protectors like managers and reactive protectors like firefighters. Managers are usually those parts of us that it's really important for them how we appear in the world, how we present in the world, and they have plans and strategies on how not to ever get the exiles triggered. So we do all different kinds of things to protect ourselves from this. And these, of course, these behaviors have then ramifications and manifestations in our life. And then firefighters are more reactive. So when we do get triggered, because it does happen, the firefighter just swoops in and is oftentimes something like an addiction or a big reaction, anger. Firefighters just come in and take the fire out of the burning emotion. So this is like the gist of IFS. And another really important part of IFS is the self. What I mentioned before is that how the basis of the model is that when we are in the self and the self gets in touch with these parts, we heal those parts. And the self is like this state of mind that can be characterized by a calmness, curiosity, clarity, compassion, confidence, courage, creativity, and connectedness. It feels so great just to read this. So when we feel into these qualities, when this is what we're feeling, then we're really, it's this state of mind that doesn't have an agenda. And a lot of the times when, for example, in spiritual traditions, when meditators are meditating, these are some of the qualities that there's a lot of overlap between. And so what is enlightenment then? And why am I talking to you about it? So I mentioned a little bit in a video on social media about how I had an experience at the beginning of the year where I went for a 10-day silent meditation retreat, and I meditated for 10 hours a day and just really was in quiet. So I wasn't talking to anyone, didn't make eye contact with anyone, and in an environment that is really great for this. And after 7 days, I just had sort of an LSD like experience without the LSD. I just went into something, and then mm, I merged with consciousness that is expanding. And you know how the universe is expanding? So at the edge of the expansion, I was there. I was literally there, and I was just like expanding, and it was just nothing I've ever like encountered before. And I was really proud days after because I was able to do it without outside help, just by the way of meditation. But the trick with enlightenment is that it's really hard to define. Some people say it's ineffable because it's really about the experience. Enlightenment is different for everyone, and it's also about experiencing it. For example, if you have someone who is an enlightened person and they tell you how it was for them, what they tell you is never going to be the real thing. So, you knowing what it is or hearing what it is not going to get you any closer to understanding it or experiencing it, right? Because it's really about the experience. That's why Albert Einstein said, any fool can know, the point is to understand. And so, this is where we really make a difference between like knowing by the mind, by cognitive abilities. Oh, this is what it is, reading theories or hearing people speak about their experience. And the other thing is really experiencing it ourselves, because what we experience is what really changes us, right? So essentially, this is the third part. So, how do I get there? How do I reach enlightenment, right? This is my favorite part because it's really tricky, because if we say, my goal is to get enlightened, then we're probably going to miss it. We're probably going to not get there because we have this as our goal. But if we have it as an intention and then just have no expectations, but just really an open heart to whatever comes, that vibe, if we keep an open heart and just be present to what is, then we're actually moving towards it. Rumi here gives us some breadcrumbs on how to go about it. And he says, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. So here, love, I'm presenting as same as enlightenment because it's not so different. So the idea is not to look for love, but to look for barriers, look for limitations within yourself that you have built against it. And that's when we come to the fourth part, which is, where are all the barriers? What are they, and how do I find them? How do I recognize them? And how do I dissolve them? Right? And in this part, I'm really going to be showing you 3 or 4 tools and models that can help orient us where we are in the journey at the moment and where to go. First one is indigenous prayer that goes all our relations. Now, I'm not indigenous, but I do make an effort to learn from indigenous leaders and indigenous wisdom. And as a white and white presenting newcomer, this is how I understand this prayer, all our relations, is that essentially our spiritual health, which is by extension our physical health as well, is always a reflection of the state of all our relations. And when they say all our relations, they really mean our relation to ourselves, our body, our parents, our friends, our community, our larger community, maybe country, relation to the earth, relation to animals, spirits, land, and so on. For example, if you took 1 hour to journal about each of these relations, you would have a lot of insights about what is the state of this relation of your relation to this, and it this will be correlated with your spiritual health and by extension your physical health, because in terms of physical health, diseases, some people call them diseases, right? So when there's a lack of ease around something, if this is over time perpetuated, then it manifests as a physical ailment. This is not to say that you should not go to your doctor. Do go to your doctor always, but also pay attention to how much power we have to heal ourselves as well. The second is really Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You may have encountered this before. It's sort of bread and butter of psychology by Abraham Maslow. By the way, Abraham Maslow actually visited and studied the Blackfoot tribe and actually produced this hierarchy of needs in his work with them, which is really interesting. And what he found was super cool, that the majority of the people in the society in the Blackfoot tribe were self actualized, more than 95%, which is not the same thing that we can say for today's society. The first two levels are, in my experience, really important: the physiological needs and safety needs. So, need for food, shelter, sleep, clothing, personal security. When I was a student in France, I was really trying to develop myself, but I also didn't have enough to pay bills. And I experienced how much energy and how much capacity was taking me to worry, taking care of my basic needs, and how limited I was in what I could do until that was resolved. One thing that was really important reading this Guardian article about, does money make you happy? And the gist of it is that money does make you happy up to a certain point, and then after that point, it doesn't really make a big difference. So essentially, if you were $500 short on really providing for your rent, food, and bills, then having an extra $1,000 per month is going to make you really happy. It's going to make you go from really miserable to really happy, right? So, in that sense, money does make you happy. But if in another circumstance you have a yacht and you want to have a bigger yacht like your friend does, then $100,000 or however much a bigger yacht costs is not really going to make the same kind of change. Just in terms of physiological needs and safety needs, it's having that firm ground that allows us later to really build up and take care of love and belonging and esteem, which are equivalent to the solar plexus chakra and then the heart chakra, and then lead us to self actualization, which is really becoming who you really are, or finding out who you are and then doing it on purpose, like Dolly Parton says. And I do have a free tool regarding this, the Chit Shakti meditations here. I call it jokingly getting your chit together meditations. They're 15-minute meditations for health, peace, love, and success. And they help visualize or manifest in your mind first, and then in reality, these first four layers so that you can really make sure that you unlock capacity to spiritual development or self actualization. The second tool that I have is really from Louise Hay. This is one of my favorite teachers. She was really active in the 80s and 90s and later in the West Coast. And she's one of the first self-help books or like books with positive affirmation. This book is her most well-known one. You can heal your life. What I love about it is that right now, today, you can go on Spotify, search for it, and you'll be able to listen to it for free. So I love free tools. So this book is a really good journey into working on ourselves. But what I think is the most valuable thing about it is that at the end of this book, you have, like the screenshot here, a list of diseases or diseases, and then the psychosomatic causes of it. So, what are some of the sort of negative beliefs that we are repeating somewhere in our system, maybe unconsciously, maybe subconsciously, maybe consciously, that are actually contributing to creating this disease. And then all the way on the right is the positive affirmations. So, what are some of the beliefs that you can repeat her recipes repeated 300 times a day? Because that's how much your subconscious actually repeats it to your system. So, really, to counter that and to support your healing, doing these affirmations. And yeah, I've used it for 6 or 7 years already. I've read this book like probably 10 times and I just really love it. So big recommendation there. And then of course yoga. So yoga is an ancient scientific system of aligning the body with the cosmos. And really two free tools here. So one is Yoga with Adriene. This is how I started to do yoga in 2016. What I love about her is that she has free YouTube videos for every day of the year. So on the left here, where you see like turn November 2024. So this is her calendar for this month. So every date has a specific free YouTube video attached to it. What I sometimes do is I open the calendar and just find the date and then go to YouTube and find that video. And I love that about this channel. It helped me really connect with myself and connect with my body. She's always so kind and positive, also inclusive and accessible. So yeah, really big recommendation there. Another thing is Upa Yoga by Isha Foundation. Upa Yoga is really the basis of yoga. It's really like a very complete exercise. This video teaches you for 1.5 hours of a set of exercises that you can do in the morning every day with fantastic benefits such as heightened alertness, feeling awake, and moving the stagnant energy in the body, and many other benefits. Check it out if you're interested. The final thing that I wanted to share with you is what was my secret sauce to having this LSD like experience and how did it happen? So, doing yoga since 2016 and meditation with that, then also the Vipassana silent meditation retreat that is a fantastic Buddhist philosophy and teaching and a fantastic place as well for really going deep inward for 10 days because when you go there there's different centers around the world, but there's one near Montreal in Montebello. When you go there, it's like everything is organized for you. You can meditate relatively easily for 10 hours a day because volunteers make food, everything is written out for you, and you don't have to really worry about your basic needs in that sense for that time. And then the final thing, obviously, for the secret sauce is the IFS, right? So I was able to really, throughout these 10 days, to go inward and in meditation, to travel all around my body with the help of Louise Hay's work and affirmations and psychosomatic causes to it. I was able to know, for example, if I go to my shoulder and my shoulder is tense and hurting, what could that be related to in my life? Or if I go to my hip, or if I go to my knee, for example, is pride and ego. Hip is flexibility in moving through life. Shoulder is what the things that you're carrying, the burdens that you're carrying, right? And so I was able to really understand what this issue or this tension could be related to. Then through IFS, through really having this experience of going to this part and saying, hey, hello, and just saying hello and presenting myself in a way that didn't have an agenda. It wasn't like, I'm gonna come and heal you now. I'm gonna destroy you. I'm gonna dissolve you, right? It was more like, hey, it's like, imagine you're in a cafe and you need an iPhone charger, and that person next to you, a stranger, has an iPhone charger that they're not using. How would you approach them? You would approach them really kindly, right? You'd be like, hey, I have a favor to ask you. You don't know me. You don't have to help me. And you might say no. And I'm open to that. But you still approach without the intention, and just then being like, how old are you? And then if it says like, I'm 3 years old, then you're like, oh my God, you're so big. Wow. Or if it's 14 years old, then you're like, oh, hey, what's up? Like, how's it going? And then approaching it that way, and then just asking it gently if it has something to show you or if it has something to tell you. And you'd be surprised how many things my body told me and how much I listened and how much that has made me tender and better in my body. It's dissolved a lot of tension, a lot of pain. And the way I understand what happened is that because I was able to dissolve and move energy in more than 60 places in my body, at the end of this 7 days of like really being intense about it, it just, I was so empty that the divine just entered, which is what some meditation teachers also say, that meditation is not something you do. Meditation is something that happens when you do the right things, when you become empty, when you dissolve yourself, when you don't become a barrier inside you, right? So that's about it. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you showing up. Thank you.